"This is my body. This is my blood." These words, spoken by Jesus during the Last Supper, have echoed through centuries. But when Jesus said this, what did he really mean? In this quiet room, with his closest followers gathered around, Jesus wasn't just sharing a meal. He was laying the foundation for a new covenant. Bread and wine, ordinary elements that, in his hands, became symbols of sacrifice and salvation. Why did he choose these elements? Bread, a staple of life, and wine, a symbol of joy and suffering, together represent the essence of life and the complexity of human experience. Jesus used these simple items to illustrate his impending sacrifice, his body broken for us, his blood shed for the forgiveness of sins. This profound act was not only about that moment. It was an invitation for all who followed to remember and relive his sacrifice. This is the heart of what we celebrate in Corpus Christi, a feast that goes beyond mere memory to become a vivid reenactment of faith and grace. Across the globe, millions gather to remember this promise through Corpus Christi, where the mystery of the Last Supper is brought to life. Through grand processions and the solemn Mass, we connect with this ancient act, turning memory into an experience of communal and divine presence. The idea that bread and wine not only symbolize but actually become the body and blood of Christ has been a cornerstone of faith for many, yet a concept that challenges the mind. It's a belief rooted deeply in Christian theology, formulated by theologians like Thomas Aquinas, and solemnly declared at the Council of Trent. According to this doctrine, during the Mass, the very substance of bread and wine is transformed. While their appearances remain, their essence becomes divine. This isn't magic, it's mystery, a divine act that transcends human understanding. But why such a profound emphasis on this change? It's about intimacy and presence. Transubstantiation means that in every Mass, believers encounter Christ not metaphorically, but literally. Jesus promised to be with us always, and this is taken as a tangible, profound fulfillment of that promise. Each time the faithful receive the Eucharist, they're not just remembering a historical event, they are partaking in the living presence of Christ. It's a moment of deep spiritual connection, a bridge across time and space, directly to the divine. So, as we celebrate Corpus Christi, we're not just observing a tradition. We are stepping into a mystery that has captivated and nourished millions of souls. It's a profound testament to the faith's promise of eternal presence and love. While transubstantiation roots us in a profound theological mystery, the story of Corpus Christi's origin is equally captivating. Enter Juliana of Liège, a 13th century nun whose visionary zeal brought this celebration into the light. Juliana, deeply devoted and spiritual, was struck by recurring visions from a young age. In her visions, she saw a full moon with a single dark spot, which she interpreted as the Church's absence of a feast dedicated solely to the Eucharist. These weren't just fleeting images, they were profound, symbolic messages urging her to act. Juliana, convinced that her visions were a divine mandate, began advocating for a new feast day. Her persistence faced resistance and skepticism, yet her resolve never wavered. Her advocacy finally bore fruit when in 1246 the Bishop of Liège, moved by her dedication and perhaps swayed by the deep symbolism of her visions, instituted the feast of Corpus Christi for the first time. Juliana's dream had become a reality, but her vision was destined for a broader stage. The concept didn't remain confined to Liège. After Juliana's death, Pope Urban IV, inspired by her devotion and the remarkable spread of the feast, declared Corpus Christi a feast of universal importance in 1264. Juliana's legacy is a testament to the power of faith and vision. Corpus Christi, now celebrated worldwide, began as a whisper in the heart of a solitary nun. It reminds us that profound changes often start with a single, inspired soul willing to listen to the divine. With the feast of Corpus Christi established and spreading across continents, its influence began to seep into the very fabric of culture, inspiring a wealth of artistic and musical expressions. Artists, captivated by the profound symbolism and the dramatic narrative of the Eucharist, have long used their talents to explore and express this sacred mystery. From Leonardo da Vinci's iconic Last Supper to the vibrant and elaborate Corpus Christi processions, the feast has been a wellspring of inspiration. Each piece of art tells a story, not just of Christ's sacrifice, but of communal identity and celebration. The visuals are not mere decorations, they're theological statements, crafted to evoke deep reflection and spiritual connection. But the feast's influence isn't limited to visual arts. It resonates deeply in the realm of music as well. Composers from various epochs have been moved to write masses and hymns dedicated to this day, each melody a tribute to the mystery and majesty of the Eucharist. These musical compositions, whether solemn or jubilant, are more than performances. They are acts of worship and remembrance, echoing the sacred words spoken at the Last Supper across time and space. Through brushstrokes and choral scores, the story of Corpus Christi weaves a tapestry of artistic heritage that stretches beyond church walls and into the hearts of the faithful. It's a vivid illustration of how divine mysteries can transform human creativity, inspiring awe and devotion through the ages. From the solemn cloisters of European cathedrals to the vibrant streets of Latin America, Corpus Christi is not just a day on the calendar, it's a mosaic of global devotion, each culture adding its own color and flair to the celebration. In Italy, for instance, towns like Orvieto and Bolsena don't just mark the day, they transform it into a spectacle of faith. Streets are adorned with intricate flower carpets, each petal carefully placed to tell the story of faith, sacrifice, and community. Cross the Atlantic to Brazil, where Corpus Christi takes on a jubilant, almost carnival-like atmosphere. Here, the day is filled with parades, music, and dance, the spiritual celebration mingling with cultural expression to create a feast for the senses. And then there's the Philippines, where the faith is fervent and the traditions run deep. Barangays, villages, compete in creating the most elaborate religious floats, each one a floating altar, carrying the sacred monstrance through streets thronged with devotees. But what binds these diverse celebrations together? It's the profound reverence for the Eucharist, a universal symbol of Christ's presence. Each tradition, though different in execution, shares the same heart, a communal tribute to the sacrament instituted at the Last Supper. As we witness these global celebrations, we see more than tradition. We see a living tapestry of faith, each thread woven from the same promise made over 2,000 years ago at that humble table in Jerusalem. While Corpus Christi is a celebration of deep reverence and unity in many parts of the world, it has not been without its controversies and theological debates. Across history and today, these disputes highlight the complex interplay of faith, doctrine, and personal belief. The very doctrine of transubstantiation, central to the feast, has been a point of contention. During the Reformation, figures like Martin Luther challenged the traditional view, arguing that the bread and wine are symbolic representations, not the literal body and blood of Christ. This divergence in belief led to significant religious and social upheaval, fundamentally altering the landscape of Christian worship in many regions. The debate was not merely theological, it was about how the faithful relate to the divine. In contemporary times, the celebration of Corpus Christi can also reflect broader societal issues. In some places, it has sparked discussions on inclusivity and the role of religious practices in public spaces. Yet, despite these challenges, Corpus Christi continues to hold a significant place in the hearts of the faithful. It serves as a reminder that faith, while universal in its appeal, is personal in its practice. Each believer, each community,
may see and celebrate the essence of this feast through their own lens of faith and history. So, as we observe the varied responses and adaptations of Corpus Christi across the globe, we are reminded of the dynamic and evolving nature of religious tradition. It's a dialogue not just between the past and the present, but among countless hearts seeking to understand and honor their faith.